No longer in Carson, but I am back with Carson. Carson, come say hi. Come say hi, baby. Here he is, just right here. Back with Carson. Carson the dog and Carson the city, sort of, always treats me very well. I went to the CrossFit Games in Carson in 2014, 15, and 16. Was a fantastic time all those times. Went there for semifinals, North America West semifinal. I'll link that video up here, and had a fantastic time. That place will always have a special place in my heart. But now we are on to week 3 of semifinals, and a little sad to know this is the last week. Also, this preview is going to be long because we have 3 semifinals and lots of athletes qualifying through these 3 semifinals. So let's get right into it. And like I said, get ready for a longer video. So we will start with North America East. That is the Syndicate Crown. We have 11 women, 11 men, and 8 teams going to the CrossFit Games out of this region. And we will start with the women because we likely have the Games champion in this field, at least in my opinion. There are some arguments for some other people, but I think that it's hard to argue against this woman. And I'm going to put at the top of my podium for semifinals, and likely also for the Games, depending on what we see at semifinals, Tia-Clair Toomey. And she didn't win quarterfinals. She is not actually the top athlete going into this semifinal, but she did win semifinals before the penalties. So it depends on how you look at it, really. But Tia-Clair Toomey, until I see her not win the Games, I'm just going to pick her to win the Games. I know that she didn't beat Laura at Rogue, but she was also only like a few months removed from pregnancy at that point. Now she is a year since her pregnancy. I think Tia-Clair Toomey is the person to beat in this field. I think she will likely win the semifinal. It doesn't even matter what's programmed. Tia-Clair Toomey, she's the top of my podium. In second, I am going to pick Emma Lawson. And Emma Lawson and Alexis Raptis were sort of first and second in quarterfinals. So Emma was first and Alexis was second in the world, but in the region, Alexis was first and Emma was second. It has to do with the other scores in the region. If you think about it, it makes sense how that can happen. Alexis Raptis is actually your top athlete going into this semifinal, but I am gonna choose Emma to beat her in this competition. But I do have Alexis Raptis making it to the Games. I have Alexis Raptis going into the Games in 3rd place. So still podium position. I think we should look at Alexis to be on the podium at Syndicate Crown. I just think she'll be 3rd compared to Tia and Emma. But Alexis Raptis, Emma Lawson, and Tia are all athletes I can all see winning the Games at some point in the future, with Tia being the soonest in the future. And in the past, she's done that. I think Emma Lawson has the capacity to win, and I think Alexis Raptis, she's super fit. I believe that she could potentially, maybe one day, stand on the top of the podium at the CrossFit Games. Definitely someone to keep your eyes on. I think those 3 are your podium. But in 4th, I have Danielle Brandon. And Danielle Brandon is another athlete that could possibly be on that podium, but had to make some hard decisions here. It's interesting looking at this field because it feels like there's a good number of women who I would be very surprised not to see them qualify. And then we get towards the back half of this and it becomes a little bit more messy and I feel much more uncertain, which is sort of how, especially the men's side of North America West went. I felt like the top there, all athletes we expected to be on the top, and all the athletes we really expected to qualify did. And then you had like the ones that were on the fringes and you were like, and those really had a bunch of shakeups. But in the next position, so 5th, I have Haley Adams. Haley Adams is making her way back into competition after taking last year off for her mental, physical, and emotional health, and took that time, and now she is making her return to CrossFit. I am very excited to see how she does here. I do think she'll qualify. She did well in quarters. I just don't think with this field that she will be on the podium. It's also really heavy, which was never Haley's best thing, but I do know that she's been working to shore up these holes, so Haley Adams could surprise us at this semifinal. I think she will be safely within the field though. Next, I have Amanda Barnhart, and she is a mom for the first time this year. She adopted a son right around the games time last year, so she didn't have that son during semifinals. This is her first semifinals as a mom, as an adoptive mom, lots of changes happening there. I do think that she is fit enough to make it back. She was also dealing with an injury, but I don't think that she's a podium contender. I think she's gonna be in the middle, safely in the middle, just someone who's sort of quiet, like a Samuel Quant type person. Just kind of gets in there and you don't really talk too much about them the whole time. They're just doing well, pretty much the whole time. Middling. Next, we get into the athletes where I have a lot more questions. So next I have Brooke Wells. And Brooke Wells was a perennial games athlete for a while there. Then she didn't qualify last year. And then during the Open, she fell and tore a muscle, and she was injured for part of that, didn't do much of 24.3. So there's just still questions there. I'm a little unsure. She is now an HWPO athlete along with Amanda Barnhart, who we just mentioned. So it'll be interesting to see how Brooke Wells does, because she's been to the games so many times, because she is so experienced, and because I believe she is healed from that injury. I do think that she will make it back to the games, but I don't think she's contending for a podium position. And at different times in her career, she was. I don't think in this field, in this very competitive North America East, where again, we are getting 11 women going to the CrossFit Games, I just don't think she's gonna be in the top half. Next, I have Jordan Sweck, and I'm not entirely sure I am saying that properly, but she's went to semifinals the last 2 years. She finished 13th and 14th. She's only 21 years old. 13th and 14th are very close to qualifying out of this semifinal. I think that she's someone that we should be looking at to make the jump from just being a middle to competitive semifinals athlete to making it into the games field. After that, I have Annika Greer, and this is one of those athletes where I was a little unsure. Annika Greer is very fit. She has been competing for a while. She's had a couple of attempts to make the games where she was very close and just didn't quite make it for one reason or another. Sometimes for little issues that weren't so much her performance, but like issues, video submissions and stuff. I would love to say that I'm 100% positive. I am putting her in my field to make it, but she is short. And we have seen the last 2 weeks how being short really hurts people in getting to the games. But she is very strong, and I do think height plays a bigger factor on the men's sides of things than it does on the women's side. So I think it's possible. She is short. I think she's like 5 foot, maybe 5'1", but I think she's got a shot. Next, we have Paige Semenza. She's been at the games a bunch of times, just sort of one of those athletes that tends to do enough. Never really someone that like there's a lot of attention on, but makes it. And she's bigger compared to some of the other people we've talked about. So I think it'll work well for her in this field. And finally, I have my last athlete, my 11th athlete on the women's side, as Shelby Neal. Shelby Neal, like Annika Greer, small. And that was my biggest concern and why I almost put her on the outside looking in. But she didn't make it to the games last year, so she has some experience. And she is 5'2", but she's listed as 150, which like, she's got some muscle on her. 150 is 150 on a 5'2" frame. You gotta have some muscle to look the way that she does. Like you gotta be like just dense, kind of like a Colton Mertens dense. And I think that she may be able to do it. She did have like this rope climbs issues in the past. That was a couple years ago. Hopefully she's done enough to fix that, she'll be able to do well enough in that workout to keep herself in the field. Okay, moving on to athletes to watch. And I always dislike doing this part because a lot of these athletes are athletes I really believe could and probably should deserve to make it to the games, and sometimes just things like beyond their control that are why they're not going to make it. Like sort of what I was just talking about before, Colton Mertens. I put him on my outside looking in, and that's where he ended up. And just because of his build. And the same thing with Rebecca Fuselier this past week. I put her on my people to watch. Really fit, did really well in some of those workouts, but just not big enough, just too small with these workouts, and it sucks. And I hate putting some of these people on this list for that reason, but we only have the workouts we have. So I have Fee Sagafi on the outside looking in as a woman to watch, someone who could possibly make it, but just I don't have her making it. She's super fit. She's made it to the games a couple of times. I just think, again, she's just a little bit small for these workouts. And I know, like, you can argue that we can compare her to someone like Tia-Clair Toomey, who's not much different in size, but Tia's a freak, for lack of a better word. You can't compare people to her. And Emma Lawson, sort of the same way. She's a smaller athlete, but just freaky fit. I just don't quite think Fee is on that level of being able to overcome those shortcomings when it comes to these workouts. On to the next, Erica Folo. She's a little short, a little light. She has no Indy semifinals experience, did really well in quarterfinals, but I don't think that's gonna be enough to get her to the games. Caroline Prevost. We have a high volume double under workout, and I just don't think that's gonna work for her. She's not very good at those. And she's 34, so, you know, see you in Masters next year, Caroline. Or maybe you can make a run at semifinals, at least for the Indies, but she may have went to the games for the last time as an individual in the open division. Hate to say it. Moving on, Ashley Wozni really works hard, was a teen athlete. Again, this field is just so stacked. Some of these athletes that are really competitive just don't have a shot in this field. And finally, Lydia Fish, another TTT athlete, very, very, very young. She's basically still a baby, just still a fetus. She's very, very young. I don't think she's gonna make it. I do think Lydia Fish is someone to watch for the future, if she doesn't make it this year. But like, anyone I have on this to watch list is someone I think could make it, just not, I don't think they will, but will be on the bubble. So Lydia Fish, maybe. But I do think we will see Lydia Fish at the games one day. All right, let's head over to the men's side of things. And we also have a games champ, the current games champ on this side of things, and that is Jeff Adler. And I will pick Jeff Adler to win this semifinals. I'm sure he'll be going back to his hotel, getting in that jacuzzi. It seems to have helped him win some other semis in the past and won the games. I mean, I just don't know how you pick anyone but Jeff Adler to win this. You know, there's a possibility he's not the biggest athlete, but I feel like he's gonna be like a Justin Medeiros and not really win anything, but just do well and look really good all weekend. That's my prediction there. In second, I have Dallin Pepper. Now, he is the fittest American man, basically a baby too, at 22 years old. We've seen how this semis is really beneficial towards the bigger athletes. So I think Dallin is going to do well here. After that, I have Roman Krennikov, and we have 2 bike workouts. Roman is gonna up a bike. Like, let me tell you, I'm sure we're gonna see, possibly in that last workout where you have to do 30 for time, unless he's really trying to game it so that he can, I don't know, do the lunge unbroken. I think he's gonna like really get that thing going. So Roman Krennikov, he's on your podium. I have him in third. Next, I have Jason Hopper, and Hopper could do really well. Again, big boy, and this is a big boy semifinal we've seen. But I think from what I've heard some other places that he's very focused on the games, so I don't know if he's gonna sell his soul to win this semifinal. Next, I have Saxon Panchik. So he pulled out last year. He's with Mayhem, has made it to the games pretty much every year since his first year making it that he's tried to make it, if that makes sense. He is smaller. That's a concern, but he is super fit. And Mayhem's some great programming. And I do kind of like love his mentality. I saw him in Hiller's video talking about how, you know, we don't have enough CrossFit athletes who are in affiliates, and I totally agree with that. So I really like Saxon Panchik. Maybe that is blinding me a tiny bit, but we've also seen him do really well at the games. We've seen him make it to the games many, many years in a row. I think he's been to the games 5 times. So I don't think it's crazy to predict him to make it. I think that he has a good shot. I don't think he has any shot of winning this just because of his size, but middle, he can do the middle. After that, I have Travis Mayer, and he had to sit out last year, another injury type thing. Not young. We've talked about some young athletes. Travis is not young, but he works out with Alexis Raptis, super fit. I think he's hungry after not getting to go last year, so I think Travis is gonna make his way back to the games. But again, another quiet athlete, just gonna slip in there. After that, I have Samuel Cornwallis. He looked good in quarters. He's did really well at the games on the team with Rich. He has some experience as an individual at the games. I just expect him to know what to do to punch his ticket and make his way back there. A rookie, I have Austin Hatfield next. Again, someone who's really good in quarters. He was young, close to making it to the games last year. In his first appearance at semifinals, I think this year is gonna play out even better for him, and he's gonna actually punch that ticket and make it to the games. After that, we have Jack Farlow, and he is super strong, just like a tank, really strong. I wonder how he'll do on that snatch workout. He fit too. He is Emma Lawson's boyfriend. So you just think about sometimes excellence breeds excellence. I think that he has a great shot of making it back to the games. In 10th, I have Taylor Self, and he would have done really great in quarterfinals if he didn't like totally bonk on that box jump workout. And I've watched a lot of Taylor Self versus the world, and while he hasn't won all of those, Colton Mertens beat him in one. Colton Mertens is a freak athlete and a games competitor, even though he won't be this year. He is a games competitor. And another athlete, someone just happened to, you know, beat him. But generally watching that, he is a pretty fit guy. And getting that opportunity to see him work out live makes me realize just how fit he is. And I think he definitely has a shot of making it into this games field. I have him making it in. I do have him on the bubble. I don't think he's by any means a shoo-in, but he definitely deserves a spot on this bubble to possibly make it to the games. And he's gonna do that Taylor Self versus the world the day before he competes, which is a little bit crazy, ballsy. And finally, I have Will Morad. It's a weird choice. I know, he's a Masters athlete now and has already qualified for the Masters games, but he is like a Cole Sager. He reminds me of Cole Sager. He just, not at all by looks or body type or any of that, but just a sort of athlete who can just like get it done at the end when he needs to get it done. When he's on the outside looking in the final event, he does it. He just does it. If he has a shot, he does it. And those are two athletes that we've seen do it in the past, and then we saw Cole do it this past weekend. So it encourages me to think that maybe Will can do it too. We shall see. I have him getting that last spot in, number 11. So the guys to watch, I have Alex Vigneault. I decided to leave him off because he's getting older. He was 35th at the games last year. Nothing really indicates to me that he's like getting better. So I think that this might be his swan song. Moving on, I also have Spencer Panchik on the outside looking in my men to watch. I think Spencer is just a little bit less fit than his brother Saxon. I think this is going to be a tough group of workouts for Saxon. So it's hard to think it's going to be better for Spencer. Next, I have Alex Kron. He is a Games vet, but he injured himself at semifinals last year, or before semifinals last year, struggled with those muscle ups, was removed, all of that. I just don't know if he's healthy. And that raises a lot of red flags for me. So I have to put him on the outside. And finally, Luke Parker. He did make it to the games last year. I do think these workouts are pretty decent for him. I just don't feel confident enough to put him in my field, but certainly look for him near that cut line. And I wouldn't be blown away if he made it to the games. But again, the people I have on these lists, on the people to watch, none of them are people I'd be blown away to make it. They wouldn't be on this list if I thought they were. It would be a shock. I think all of these people on both of these lists, my list of predictions and my list of people to watch, are all people that could go to the games this year. I just have to make some hard decisions and pick ones that I think are more likely to, and that is the first list. Finally, let's go over to the teams, and I do know that sometimes people tune out when I talk about the teams, but there's a really good team here, so maybe stick around. So the first place team in this region, I believe this is our CrossFit Games winner. And I believe this team has the ability to win most, if not all, of these workouts. So something to watch, like mayhem-esque here. And that would be Peak 360, Noah Olson's team. He's gathered some really, really great athletes. Lena Richter, Matilda Garns, Tola Morquinho. I don't know how to say that. And I know that we were all saying it wrong at one point, and then he corrected us, and I don't remember what it was. But all those fantastic athletes on this team, athletes that have stood on the podium, Lena has, so like Noah has as an individual, and they did fantastic in quarterfinals. Let's count them in and likely count them to win. In second, I have CrossFit Mayhem. They weren't second in quarters, but I do think they'll do what it takes to get on that podium and in second at semifinals. This is not the CrossFit Mayhem of Mayhem's past with Rich Froning. This is a new CrossFit Mayhem. That old team was called CrossFit Mayhem Freedom. So don't get that confused whenever you see these Mayhem teams. Mayhem Freedom is retired and gone. You will not see Mayhem Freedom on a leaderboard again, I think, unless Rich changes his mind. But if Rich isn't on that team, it's not a Mayhem Freedom team. CrossFit Mayhem, different team, different athletes. I think they'll still be good, just not Peak 360 good. After that, I have CrossFit Pro 1. I believe at times they've been called CrossFit Pro 1 Montreal. This is that same gym. So I think that this team and that gym has a lot of experience going to the games, going to semifinals, and I think they'll be packing their bags and going to Fort Worth. I don't know why I always want to say Fort Smith. Fort Worth. We're not going to Fort Smith. After that, we'll hear another Mayhem name, and that is CrossFit Somos Mayhem. Then I have TTT, that is Training Think Tank CrossFit Endure. After that, I have Ocean State CrossFit Surge. They were second in semis between Peak 360 and Mayhem. That's great company. I don't know how they'll do on the semifinal stage. It's a little bit different than being in your home gym, so I have them in the field but closer to the bottom. Next, CrossFit Levi's Mayhem. Again, Mayhem. I don't think you can put the Mayhem name on your team unless you have their approval. So those are good teams usually. And then 12 Labor's CrossFit Lions. Okay, so that wraps up our big semifinal of the weekend, North America East. And I think that's where we're gonna see the most exciting races. That is the one that we broadcast by CrossFit, which also means we have no live stream on Friday, just a fair warning, unfortunately. Well, we have the podcast live stream, and they'll be live streaming all the events, all the teams, and all the individuals. It's just not as good. Like Torian Pro was better on Friday than the North America West last week. But we got what we got. That's all. So we'll watch it. We'll enjoy it as much as we can. We'll be grateful that we have something to watch on Friday and get to see some of these really awesome athletes compete. So that was our big semifinal, but all the semifinals are important. So we will move on to our second of 3 semifinals, and that is the South American semifinal. So they get 3 women, 3 men, and 2 teams. We will start again with the women. And in first, I have Victoria Campos. She is with Mayhem as well. I believe she trains with Roman a lot, which, just a great athlete, right? So like, if you're training alongside Roman Krenikov, you're probably pretty dang good. And she was so far ahead in quarters. I just have trouble believing that she won't be in the top 3. So look for Victoria Campos to get back to the CrossFit Games again. After that, I have Emily Andrade, and she was second in quarterfinals, and there was a pretty big margin between her and Victoria, but then a pretty big margin between Emily and the rest of the field. So I'm using that data, what we're seeing, to think that she will probably make it into the top 3. And then my final person is Amanda Fusuma, which you might think, if you look at the quarterfinals leaderboard, is crazy. She is in 41st. So I guess someone didn't go for her to go, but she is in 41st, I believe, because she got a penalty on workout 1. The score on workout 1 is significantly worse than all the other scores. And if her score was more similar on workout 1 to all the other workouts in quarterfinals, she would have likely been top 3, maybe even second in quarterfinals. So I have to put her as someone who I expect in a real competition where there's not going to be after the fact penalties, that she'll be able to make it towards that top 3. We're not going to do people to watch here. There's just less people to watch and less names people recognize. So we will move right on to the men. In first, I have Keik Cerveni. In second, Agustin Riquelme, and in third, Guy Malheiros. A lot of people, a lot of names we've seen before, a lot of people we're familiar with. I think in these less developed semifinals, that plays a big part. I think with 3 this year for the men, I think Guy is going to get in there. I do think he's going to suffer on a couple of these workouts. I do think he's going to hit some of them out of the park. I am hoping that that will be enough for him to make it. Sometimes having a slightly low finish in these less competitive semifinals really hurts you. We still have fields of 40, but when we talk about the men at the top of North America East, they can have finishes near 10th and still make it into the top 3. 7th, 8th, those are all positions you can get and be a top 3 athlete at North America East, at North America West, in Europe. You cannot do that in South America. You need like top 3, top 4, top 5 finishes, pretty much all of the workouts to get top 3, because the depth of the field isn't much. There's not going to be a lot of people middling them. We're going to see the top guys be the top guys in almost all of the workouts. You'll have a couple people who have home run workouts who might get into the top 5, but the top 3 will probably be in the top 5 to 6 positions in almost all of the workouts. Going over to our teams. So only 2 qualify. And AR1 CrossFit Mayhem Unity, Mayhem, that's the name. Mayhem again was way ahead in quarters. So I think that they're pretty solid to get one of those top 2 positions. But I'm gonna put the 3 teams that I think are going to compete for that second position, because they were all very, very close in quarters, and this might be a battle for the second place position. And I'm gonna try to pronounce these because I'm not sure it's gonna be great, but we're gonna do it. It's Vittoria CrossFit Century 1 Movimento. I hate this. I'm sorry for anybody who knows how to pronounce these things. And that same thing, but Forca at the end, Forza, just read it. And then Q21 CrossFit. Thank you, Q21 CrossFit, for making my life easy. All those teams were very, very close in quarterfinals, and I think that they'll be battling it out for that second spot. That's it for South America. Finally, we're gonna move all the way over to Africa. For the men, I picked Keelan Henry. He did well in quarters. He has games experience. I'm going with that to make an assessment that he has a good chance of making it to the games. Certainly a name to watch for to possibly make it out of Africa. For the women, I have Gilmari Raineke. I don't feel like there's a strong woman in the sense like a woman just way ahead of the field this year in this region. So this was a little bit challenging, but this woman has a lot of experience, did pretty well in quarters, didn't win it, but did pretty well, and has a lot of semifinal experience. She's been to semifinals 2021, 2022, and 2023, made the last chance qualifier in 2021, came in third last year at the semifinal. So I think that she has a real shot of getting that games position this year. And for the team, I have CrossFit Tiger Valley Relentless. They dominated quarterfinals, and we've seen in other smaller regions like Asia that the team that dominated the quarterfinals is likely to be the team that we see win the semifinals. So I'm going with that to predict that this team will repeat what they did in quarterfinals and have a really good showing at semifinals as well. They weren't quite as dominant as some of the other teams we've seen, but they were first, second in quarterfinals, which is pretty dang good. Only beaten in 2 workouts by 1 team. And that team is a team that came in second. I just think that team has a little bit more, they have a little more holes than CrossFit Tiger Valley Relentless. So that's who I'm gonna go to win that. So that is our final semifinals. It's sad. This is the last week of this. Makes me sad. I really enjoy semifinal season, all of these tickets being punched. But then after that, we have the games, and that's super exciting too. So a lot to look forward to. If you're new here, make sure you subscribe. I'll be putting out content in between the games, at the games. I'll be, sharing my CrossFit stuff, what I do as a normal athlete, regular athlete, less elite athlete. Lots of content to come. So subscribe if you want to get in on the fun. It is fun. I like to have fun here. Like this video if you had a good time, and leave a comment so I can hear what you guys think. And if you have different picks than I do, and you can tell me why I'm wrong or why I'm right, whatever, tell me. All right, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.